Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this special town board meeting to order. It's Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. The time is 6:04 p.m. Before we start, I'd like to ask everybody to rise and please say the pledge to the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we can go into public comments and questions on agenda items only. If there's anybody that has a comment or a question to make on an agenda item only, please approach the podium. Seeing nobody approaching the podium, we'll move on. We are still waiting for one guest for tonight's presentation, so if everybody's okay with it, we'll move on to the resolutions and get them out of the way. All right? Okay. Resolution number 1, resolution awarding the request for proposal of bond counsel. Whereas the town board of the town of Dover advertised for requests for proposals, RFPs, for specialized bond counsel in connection with the town of Dover Boyce Park Recreation Center project. And whereas RFPs were received, opened, and reviewed. And now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Dover does hereby accept and award the proposal of Oric, Harrington, and Sutcliffe LLP of New York, New York, at a rate of $6,325 plus 55 cents per $1,000 on amounts over $4 million on the bond, plus $350 for drafting of bond resolution, $875 for official statement, $350 for continuing disclosure certificate, and $350 for bond tax law review. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Brought by Murphy, seconded by both Jackson and Maluta. Any discussion? Council, anything?
They've been vetted. I checked with a colleague of mine, town council, and one of their references. He told me the town was very satisfied with their service, so, and their their proposal was the most competitive.
Madam Clerk, anything? No? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Next resolution? Sorry. No, she's got it because of later's presentation. No, it's okay. Resolution of intent to declare lead agency in accordance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, Town of Dover Community Recreation Center, unlisted action. Whereas the Town of Dover desires to construct a community recreation center at Boyce Park, and whereas the Town Board of the Town of Dover, the Town Board, must comply with SECRA and its implementing regulations at 6 NYCRR Part 617 in the review of the action. And whereas the Town Board is an involved agency pursuant to SECRA, and whereas the Town Board has determined that the action is an unlisted action under SECRA requiring a coordinated review, and whereas the Town Board intends to serve as the lead agency for the coordinated SECRA review of all of the action. Now be it resolved, now be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Dover, that, 1, the action is hereby determined to be unlisted action under SECRA. 2, the Town Board hereby declares its intent to act as lead agency pursuant to SECRA for the purpose of conducting the environmental review of the action. 3, the Town Board hereby directs the Town Clerk to send the notice of intent to act as lead agency to the other involved interested agencies pursuant to SECRA. 4, this resolution shall be effective immediately. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Brought by Murphy, seconded by Maluta. Any discussion? Council, anything?
Nope.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Resolution authorizing budget transfers and budget amendments. Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Dover hereby authorizes the following budget transfers. 2023 budget, from line A, 1220.1.100 to line A, 1680.1.100 in the amount of $355.40. And from line A, 1220.1.1.100 to line A, 1680.4.400 in the amount of $37.82. And be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Dover hereby accepts receipt for the following unanticipated revenues and/or authorizes the following budget amendments. Approved from ARPA for Boyce Park Rec Center Wetland Delineation, EAF, and seeker. Increase revenue account A, 4089001, $3,950. Increase expenditure account A, 1620.4.420, $3,950. I'll entertain a motion.
So, second.
Brought by Murphy, seconded by Jackson. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Resolution authorizing hiring of wetland and habitat consultant. Whereas the Town of Dover is in need of a wetland and habitat consultant in connection with the new Boyce Park Recreation Center project, and whereas in order to comply with seeker regulations and wetlands delineation and report, as well as a turtle habitat letter is needed. Now therefore be it resolved, sorry, that the Town Board of the Town of Dover does hereby authorize the Town Supervisor to execute an agreement with Ecological Analysis, LLC of Middletown, New York, to provide a wetland delineation and report, turtle habitat letter, and assist with the seeker EAF in the total amount of $3,950, as per the terms of the agreement. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Brought by Maluta, seconded by Murphy. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. I have one thing I'd like to bring up, just as a reminder. I had brought it up last regular meeting. I'll bring it up again tonight, and I will bring it up again at the next regular meeting to fulfill the last night that we have available. But just so for those of you who are watching and may be interested, the Zoning Update Committee will hold 2 listening sessions at the March 20th, next week, 2024, and the April 17th, 24 committee meetings. These sessions will be a one-on-one 15-minute discussion session with the committee members to discuss zoning-related topics. Sessions will give interested parties an opportunity to provide the committee with data, information, comments, concerns, requests, and recommendations. Sessions will be scheduled by appointment only. To schedule an appointment, please call the Planning Board Secretary, Marilyn Van Millen, at 845-832-6111, extension 100. All and only on Chapter 145 zoning. You might get a lot more accomplished speaking to them, to the committee one-on-one, than coming here and trying to get some glory time on my podium. That's that. You want to just start with this?
Yes, is that all right if I just kind of take over? All right.
At this time, a presentation on May 11th, 2024 referendum vote on the proposed construction of a new community recreation center at Thomas Boyce Park in Wingdale. I will start when we get into this, that this committee has worked long and hard, and many things have been thought of and talked about. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to our town clerk, Katie Palmerhouse, and we'll start this presentation on this possible project.
Thank you, Supervisor, and thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to have a short presentation on a proposed idea for a new Boyce Park Community Recreation Center. And the process that the town board would like to take is to hold a referendum vote in May to ask the residents, the registered voters, to come to town hall and vote if you would like to proceed with the project or not. So tonight, we're going to have a few presenters and to introduce the project, and we'll continue to post information on our town website and on community social media. And at any time, residents are welcome to call the town clerk's office. I'll be more than glad to share any information as it's available, or you can email me as well through the town website. So tonight's presenters will be, first, Recreation Specialist Julie Muncy to talk about the need and benefit of the new center. As a former town board member and longtime elected official, I'll talk a little bit about the background on the interest that there has been in a community center. Engineer Joe Berger will talk a little bit about the site and the location and site information. We'll have some slides to look at as well. We've been working with a wonderful engineering or architectural firm, KSQ Design, and tonight John Evans, an architect, will talk a little bit about the proposed exterior rendering and interior layout. We will have a presentation from a municipal bond fiscal advisor, Beth Ferguson, most likely, if not tonight, at our next town board meeting, the regular town board meeting. And then it'll be followed by any comments from those who are here tonight and from the town board and also from County Legislator House. All right, Julie, would you like to come forward and tell us a little bit more about the need and benefits of a community recreation center?
Hi, I'm Julie Muncy from Dover Recreation. So Dover has been Dover has been researching the idea of constructing a new recreation center for many, many years. And I am very excited to be part of the process. The proposed multi-purpose recreation center offers a multitude of benefits that cater to the diverse needs of our residents. In addition to providing a space for recreation activities, the center will also serve as an emergency shelter in times of crisis, offer a safe haven for summer camp during extreme weather conditions, and run year-round programs as well as during school breaks and holidays. The proposed recreation center will offer numerous benefits to the community, providing a valuable space for residents of all ages to engage in physical activity, socialize, and improve their overall well-being. As a recreation department, we rely on the school 100% of our indoor programs. Sharing the same space with other organizations and the school's scheduled activities is a conflict. If there's a conflict, and we are often forced to cancel or delay our programs, the Recreation Center will eliminate this and provide better service for our community. This center will allow us to increase the number of programs we offer the residents of Dover. For example, open gym for all ages, the day and evening hours, fitness classes, open basketball, indoor pickleball, flag football, and volleyball can now be incorporated during the winter months. We will be able to provide before and after school programs, school break and holiday camps, wellness programs, and a teen center. Seniors will have the opportunity to stop in and meet with friends, play cards and games throughout the week, not just on program days. We will be able to provide year-round community events such as farmer markets, art exhibits, and business networking events, and weather will no longer be an issue for our Easter egg and Halloween events. Overall, the Recreation Center is a vital resource that will improve the health and well-being of Dover residents, and I'm excited about the possibility we will have to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Terrific. So, in very short summary, let me just read what we are proposing to do. We would like the town board to seek residents' input through a referendum vote on a proposed project to construct a new community recreation center on the grounds of Thomas Boyce Park in Wingdale, funded at a maximum cost of $8.75 million through a general obligation bond paid over a 30-year term. And I'm certain that that probably sounds like a lot of money, and it is. But it is something that can be paid over time, and it is not out of the range of similar communities to ours, even neighboring communities that have also recently taken bonds issued to be able to be paid for a recreation improvement. The referendum vote date would be Saturday, May 11th of this year, 2024, and it would be open to registered voters and held here at Dover Town Hall from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I've served in elected office since 2001, so I've been here a long time, serving both on the town board and in most recent years as town clerk. And one thing that I have known about for many years is the need for a community recreation center. It's not something that has just come to light in the last couple years. It's a chronic need that our town has had, that by addressing it in this generation, it will be a benefit for generations to come. In 1993, when the last master plan was developed, one of their goals was to improve municipal facilities so that it could meet the growing needs of our residents, our children, and recreation in general. And then again in 2022, it became another community goal that was adopted and brought before the community. So simply put, we're acting upon what town residents have asked for multiple years, and I believe that this town board at this time has tremendous ability to oversee and implement a project like this. So often in time in office, you get to see short-term results. Emergencies get managed. Maybe projects get implemented like we've had in recent years, some wonderful infrastructure projects. This is what I call a generational project, something that our children's children will be able to enjoy. For some of us, we might think, well, we're older, we may not get use of it. But in the case of a cooling center, in the case of an emergency shelter, these are critical facilities that we just don't have. And it's important for us to grow not only in our economic development, but in the services that we provide. Back in 2017, I helped the community by preparing and implementing a community survey called Your Voice in the Future of Dover. And it had a wonderful response rate, 425 respondents, which for a small community like ours was almost a statistically significant result. And one of the questions involved which community resources would improve the overall quality of life. And among them were 6 different options. Number 1 and number 2, which had responses of 70% of the survey response rate, were a community center and a town sports and recreation facility. This project answers that question. This provides what people asked for. And so our hope is that you'll seriously consider that this project would be something the townspeople would move forward with. Ooh, I'm so sorry. Now let me invite Town Engineer Joe Berger to come up, and we have a sketch plan of the proposed area in the park where the Community Recreation Center could go, and he'll briefly describe where it is on the property and what the seeker process would look like, the state environmental quality review process that towns and all land developers need to undertake in the process.
Good evening, Joe Berger, Town Engineer. The proposed building will be, as you enter the existing park, on the left side, which would be on the northern side of the park. There's a parking area now there. It would be on the northern side of that existing parking area. And it will be, we're keeping it over 100 feet away from what's an existing wetland. You can see on the map up there, the top portion, that's a federal wetland. So we need to stay 100 feet away from there. And we want to stay away from this slope on the state highway. So we're at the end of the parking lot. We need to provide both a well, which would be to the east, or actually southeast of the building, as you can see, for water services, and a subsurface sewage disposal system just north, where it will be away from the wetland and away from the well. So those will provide us with the sewage for the building as well as the water. We show a parking lot of about 100 cars right now to serve the building, along with handicap parking up in the, which would be the western side of the parking lot, closest to the building. So it's pretty flat in there, so it's very minor grading to build the parking lot. The building will be pretty much put on grade as well, with some minor grading on the west and north side to direct runoff from the highway away from the building and away from the parking lot. But other than that, the amount of site work is minimal, being pretty flat in there already, with just building the parking lot and the building itself. The process we're at right now is the State Environmental Quality Review Act, which reviews the environmental impacts caused or that would be affected by the construction of the building, the footing, the parking lot, the well, and the subsurface sewage disposal system. That EAF, Environmental Assessment Form, long form, will be prepared, and the town board will use that form to look at all the impacts that could, and then determine whether there's a environmental impact, which would be the conclusion of the seeker process, whether it would be a negative or a positive. We feel strongly, by looking at the project at this stage, that it will be a negative impact, but that will be a process that the town board will go through after looking at the material my office is preparing, along with the environmental specialist that the town board just hired, who's going to be working with me to delineate the wetland, look at the turtles, look at any other animals and any other environmental concerns, which will be looked at over the next 30 days. Currently tonight we circulate it for lead agency. We need to wait 30 days before we take any additional action, which will, at the conclusion of 30 days, we'll either hear from other agencies who are interested, whether they concur that Dover Town Board will be the lead agency, or if they choose to put their hat in. Most likely that will be just an action that the town board will be for a project of this size. Upon declaring themselves lead agency at that point, in 30 days, the environmental assessment form will be reviewed at a town board meeting, looking at all the information provided to the town board, and which will be made public prior to that for the public to look at as well. If there's any questions.
Any questions at all from anyone here?
Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Appreciate the guidance, and hopefully we'll move on.
Excellent. Just for reference, Boyce Park is about 200 acres in size. So when you kind of see it from our map here, and we certainly will make all of these available on the town website, and residents can also call and we can send copies. The building fits perfectly. And you can see across the pond, the well-familiar pond we have here, which is going to have its own maintenance later this year. And then the current recreation building, sorry, the mouse kind of gets away from me, is right in that area there. So it will be in a spot where people can still, children can still access the soccer fields and baseball field without any change, and tennis courts. Okay. All right, so I'd like to invite John Evans from KSQ Design. We've been working with this firm since last June, and we've gone through different renderings. Our internal committee has had great experience with them. And so maybe, John, you can describe our latest iteration of what our idea for the building would be.
Sure. So, thank you for having me. This has been a really fun project. And you can see up here in the front a series of kind of versions of the building. And it probably looks fairly familiar to what we showed at Dover Day back in September. But it's a dramatically different building, but we tried to keep the character of it. We worked really hard on incorporating elements and kind of holistically looking at the building in the setting. So it's really, we drew inspiration from the vernacular buildings. The first time that I came to town, I was coming directly from our office in Midtown, and I often take the train if I'm already at work. And I assumed that when I got off the train, I would be able to take an Uber here. And there were none. So I walked the 3 miles on 22, and I saw a lot of buildings on the way. It's such a beautiful community, like the rolling hills and the horse farms. And so when we sat down to start putting together ideas, this is kind of the language that developed. So it has a little bit of that kind of Catskill Adirondack mountain quality brought into it. But ultimately, it's that horse farm barn, that pastoral quality, which really lends itself to the scale of an athletic facility, and also to the additional programmatic elements that are kind of tacked on to the building as well.
Great. I'm going to turn to the interior for you.
And again, so this is very at the conceptual level, kind of how much space do we need, what spaces do we need, and what will they be used for, and how should they be arranged, what needs to be next to what else. So the main piece of the building is that basketball court, which we imagine being used for a multitude of activities. You could, typically people are striping the basketball courts, not just for basketball, but for volleyball, badminton, pickleball. It can be used for Zumba classes, yoga classes. It's sized for significant spectator seating on the top portion of the plan, the north side of the building. We imagine the bleachers would be retractable, so multiple activities could be going on. If there's a basketball practice happening, you can use the other portion of the building for various other activities. There's a large storage space facing the existing soccer fields. So that would be for field maintenance and the storage of equipment that's used for the other sports that take place in Boyce Park and for the maintenance of the park. We're showing 3 different office spaces. That's for the athletic, the recreation director, and then also what's currently labeled as office, we're imagining as potentially having much more flexible use. And there are ideas for use by the senior groups, the teens for various meetings. Again, there's bathrooms, and then what we're calling the third space right now, which would be a long, kind of transparent zone that would be kind of a community gathering space. You could see into the activities going on in the basketball court. It would be the zone that you have to pass through to use any of the other parts of the building. And it would be that spot for kind of just happening upon your neighbors. running into someone you know or meeting someone that you haven't met yet, because we're imagining multi-generational, multi-use. And being the kind of agrarian community that you have here, it's been talked about having an indoor farmers market and various other kind of uses.
Excellent. Any questions? All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. That was
All
excellent.
right, thank you.
So,
Thank you.
and just so that it's mentioned, it's about 12,000 square feet. So keep that in mind. All right, great. And now I'd like to introduce Beth Ferguson from Fiscal Advisors and Marketing, who's going to talk about the bonding process, the way that we would be able to pay for this construction over time, and she and a bond counsel would guide us through the process. So, hello, Beth. Thank you.
Hello there. Yes, time to talk about the money. So,
Could I just before you start, can I just bring up that area for you because I want to use your app. Here we go.
yes.
All right, excellent.
Thank you. So I am Beth Ferguson. I'm with Fiscal Advisors and Marketing, just so you know, and the town recently hired me as your municipal advisor, which every municipality or school district needs a municipal advisor when they're entering the capital markets in the state of New York. And I'm going to make this brief because I'm assuming none of you have ever gone through the bonding process before, because the town has not issued bonds in my memory, which is quite a long memory, at least since back in 2000. There were some bond anticipation notes at one point in time, but certainly no bonds outstanding. So the primary players in the market are you, the issuer. I am your financial advisor. I am the only person on the team that has a fiduciary responsibility to the town to act in your best interests. You will need to hire a bond counsel, and I know you've at least gone through the RFP process. And that is the counsel that makes sure that everything is done legally correct and issues a tax-exempt bond opinion so that we know that the bonds are tax-exempt. There will be an underwriter, which is the purchaser of the debt that's issued. That's usually, it can be a local bank or it can be an investment bank out of New York City, such as Jefferies or Roosevelt and Cross are a couple that do a lot of purchasing. You will also need a rating. There are two rating agencies, primarily Moody's and Standard & Poor's. And you need that whenever you issue bonds. The investment community is looking for what is your credit rating, just like when you're going out for a mortgage. There are regulatory bodies such as the Securities and Exchange Commission and the MSRB, Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, that kind of overlook the transaction. Not so hands-on, but maybe from afar. If anything were ever to go amiss, go awry, then they would probably be coming in. There's the depository trust company. That's a place that the town would be paying its principal and interest, and then it's disseminated out to the purchasers. And there may or may not be a municipal bond insurer. This is a type of insurance that just guarantees the principal and interest of the bonds, but we wouldn't know that until we got to actual issuance. So, what is a municipal bond? It's a general obligation. It's a written evidence of debt, and it's issued by a municipality and secured by the underlying taxing power of the town. It is the most secure type of bond that there is in the capital markets. Municipal obligations can be issued as long-term bonds, which means that it's 13 months or longer, or as short-term notes, which are 1 year or less. And in your case, we would be looking at bond anticipation notes, perhaps. So there is, of course, an authorization process. You will need to complete something called the SEQR, which is the State Environmental Quality Review Assessment. Then a bond resolution will need to be adopted. It's drafted by bond counsel, and it's certainly necessary before moving forward with any project or paying any costs that you want to be reimbursed for. This must be in place. There There are two ways to approve a bond resolution. One is by a supermajority of the board, or there can be a referendum of the general public. I will say I have worked on very few transactions where a referendum of the general public was the method that was sought. I can certainly understand it in this circumstance just because the town hasn't gone out with bonds for a very, very long time, if ever. And I will say that's very prudent. That's been very prudent of the town. You have been able to do a lot of the things that I see other municipalities have to go out to bond for, such as roads, such as highway equipment, such as repairs to a town hall. You've been able to be very cognizant of what your costs are and budgeting for those. And that's seen as very positive. So I can understand going out to the public because this is something new for all of you and you want to make sure that you have your public behind you. The resolution, it takes approximately 60 days before it's effective, and that is if it was by a supermajority of the board. This first permissive referendum won't be necessary if you're going out to the public. That's only if the board has done a supermajority. So it'll take about 30 days before it's effective. And it certainly allows for the issuance of both bond anticipation notes and bonds. Once you have the bond resolution in place, the supervisor, and you don't have a controller, so it would probably be the supervisor that's named, would have the authority to issue either bonds or bond anticipation notes so that the project can be completed. So just quickly, bond anticipation notes are issued for 1 year or less, and this would be something similar to a construction loan that you would issue early on in the project. And they can be renewed for up to 5 years, but ultimately they're permanently financed with bonds. The pros are there are certainly less steps to issue and they're less costly, but if you issue bond anticipation notes, you're going to pay for those, and eventually you're going to have to pay for your bonds anyway when you issue those. The cons are there's certainly interest rate risk because you issue them for 1 year and you know what the interest rate is when you issue them, but then when you go to bonds or if you're renewing them, you won't know what that interest rate is until you issue those. Issue cost is paid each year at renewal, so you have to pay each time you issue a bond anticipation note. Current bond anticipation note interest rates are approximately 3.75 to 4.25 for a 1 year issue. The reason you would issue a bond anticipation note is if this project ends up being a multi-phase project or something that's going to go out for have construction for more than a year, and you would certainly want to have all your bids out and back and know exactly what your costs are before you go to bonds, because you don't want to be in a circumstance where if you're lucky enough the project comes in under budget. You wouldn't want to go out with a bond issue of $8.75 million and oh, how lucky are we? The project only came in at $8 million. Once you go to bonds, those are in place for the life of the bonds, which is 25 to 30 years. There is something called a call period, which is like a prepayment, but that's only allowable after 8 years of the bonds being outstanding. Bonds are issued for 5 to 30 years. For your project, we're looking at a period of probable usefulness, which is an average life of either 25 or 30 years. That'll be determined once bond counsel speaks with the architect and we find out exactly how the building is being constructed. The pros, interest rates are fixed for the term of the bonds. It's cons, there's certainly more steps to issue and it is more costly. And then at the bottom here, I have what the current bond interest rates are. You're going to be looking to the far right at the 25 and the 30 year. And then I have ratings at the AA and the A category. I'm certain that the town will probably be at least in the A category. It could be a little bit higher, but that'll be determined by the rating agency once we speak to them. This is just the timing and the issuance process. Certainly, this part of the process takes much less time than everything else that you're doing. Financing of a bond anticipation note takes approximately 4 to 6 weeks, and for a bond, it's approximately 8 to 10 weeks. some of the initial steps are the same, it's just that bonds, there's some extra steps. You'd have to have a rating agency call, you have to go to the state comptroller with a debt statement, you publish a notice of sale, but the other steps are the same, that we're determining the project and the amount to be financed. We're going to distribute a preliminary official statement to investors that has all the demographic information and the structure of the bonds that would go out to investors. And then there's a sale. It's a competitive sale. It takes place, we get bids in our office, and then a couple weeks later you would close. And just a note on bonds, there is a requirement that you do annual continuing disclosure as long as the bonds are outstanding. So on an annual basis, I would be assisting the town with that filing. Just a quick note on ratings. As I said, it's required whenever bonds are issued. There are 3 major rating agencies, S&P Global Ratings, Moody's Investors Service, and Fitch Ratings. The town would probably either go with Moody's or S&P. Fitch is usually seen as a secondary rating. And we would probably be going with S&P Global Ratings because the town does not have a formal audit. You file with the Office of the State Comptroller your annual financial report, and S&P is much more positive in allowing that to be the underlying document, where Moody's requires a formal audit. The 4 areas that determine the rating of the town will be your demographics, your finance, what debt you have outstanding. They'll look at OPEB costs along with the debt, and then the management of the town. Then finally, the most important page of all, I did a sample debt service schedule and the tax impact if the town were in fact going to issue $8.75 million of bonds and you were in the A category. Certainly more conservative because a AA, your interest rates would be slightly lower. I assumed the current market plus a cushion of 0.5%, because I think it's more important to be conservative. We don't know what interest rates, I just don't know. We'll be doing 6 months, 8 months, a year from now. So we always add in just 0.5% to be conservative. So based on the 2024 assessed values of the town, the estimated debt service, I have a total interest that would be paid over 25 and 30 years, and then what the annual payment is. So $584,000 for 25 years or $534,000 for 30 years. And then if we look at what the annual increase is for $100,000 of assessed value, it's $153 for 25 years per homeowner and $140 per year for a homeowner. And the monthly increase is $12.77 for a 25-year issue, or $11.67 for a 30-year issuer. And that's also, it's based on a assessed value of $100,000. So if your assessed value is $150,000 or $200,000, you could either multiply these numbers by 1.5 or 2, just so you can get an idea of what the cost will be. I'm happy to take any questions.
First, let me say thank you for giving us the guidance that we so much needed, based upon, yes, it's been a long time and none of us have gone through this type of process.
Absolutely.
And we're trying to do the best we can for what the people are asking for. But I do have a question. You said if we were, and I just want to make sure I understand it, if we were fortunate enough to come under budget, we're borrowing 8.75, and it comes in at 8 million. That 0.75 we borrowed, what could we or what should we do with that? You see what I'm trying to ask?
I do.
Because
So-
it's borrowed for a certain project.
Yes.
Right.
So what we would work to make sure that that doesn't happen. So if the public allows for 8.75 million, you then adopt a bond resolution for 8.75 million, but you'll go out and get bids for the project. I'm suggesting that you don't go to bonds until you know exactly what those bids are for the project. And that if we wanted to, we could go out initially with bond anticipation notes. But if you're going to get all the bids and it's only going to take a matter of months until all the bids come back, that's when I would say
I see what you're
go
saying.
to bonds. But If you did happen to issue the 8.75 million and for some reason you didn't need all of the money, there's only 2 allowable uses for the excess funds, and that is either to do some other part of the project, but that's not going to be the case in this circumstance. Like if another town does it, they might just say roads, and then they have other roads they can do. Or you would have to use it to pay the existing principal and interest on the bonds until it was used up.
Right. So you would receive the bids, then figure in a cost overrun, and that would be your number that you would go
Yes,
for?
and
Okay.
we'd be working with the architect, to figure out that number and seeing how the bids come in. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, Beth.
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
You're welcome.
Let me explain how we actually came up to the 8.75 million. As we were working with the architect, and we did scale back the initial project that we introduced at Dover Day, just because that it was of a size that was more expensive than what we were comfortable moving forward with. So this is a revised conceptual plan, and our architect was kind enough to help us be able to learn a little bit more about what the cost would be for this size facility with some of the things that we were looking for, namely retractable bleachers and things to that, some things that were important for the town. So the 8.75 figure includes a 15% override already built in. So we tried to anticipate already knowing, even though it's an estimate and we would have to go back out for bids, we wanted to make sure that in approaching residents, that we would already include the customary things that happen in overrides for construction projects. So that's where it came from. It wasn't an arbitrary figure at all. So, okay. All right, here we go. I'm just going to move a few slides down. Okay. So just to summarize, the information tonight will be available on the town's website. We'll also circulate it through community social media, and you're always welcome to call the town clerk's office, and I can send you information or prepare it, and you can pick it up. There will be a follow-up meeting about the referendum and the project to be held in April. We just haven't got a date set for then, but we will make that available. It has to be after the 30 days when we circulate for lead agency. So it would have to be after April 13th, and we'll announce that. We'll publish it in the newspaper. So I think what we'd like to do now is to perhaps hear from the town board members, maybe your impressions, County Legislator House, if you would like to speak at all. And then from there, we'll close the meeting and we'll have the material available. So Legislator, would you like to speak?
Little different view there, buddy.
Yeah, this is new. Look at all these beautiful faces up there tonight, huh? Andrew House, County Legislator, District 24, which is Dover and Pauling. Also a resident of Dover and soon to be Sherman Hill Road. I wanted to just take a moment here to express my support for this community center and the referendum coming out in May. I believe that the J.H. Ketchum Memorial Park project, the rehabilitation of the park and the renovations of the building itself, the community center there, was kind of an eye-opening experience for us as a town. That was a project that we took on in a very, very difficult time in the world, and we were very successful there in completing that project through the use of ARPA funds and through county block grants, and also, of course, our own as well. So that was a real accomplishment for us. And I think that really gives us a kind of the stand that we need to be able to say that we can take on a project of this magnitude. This is not something that, of course, will be done overnight. If the J.H. Ketchum Memorial Park, that was almost a 2-year process, start to finish. I know that we have some year guidelines here, but it will there will be a lot of time kind of leading up to this, and I hope everyone kind of gets to voice their opinions on the matter from the public here. Of just a few things, I guess. I have a vested interest, of course, in this project. My family's here, my home is here, my businesses are here. I also provide housing to 8 families here in town. I understand that we're talking about real money here, and this will have a direct impact on all of the residents, including myself. So I'm willing to take on that additional annual expense because I think it will increase the quality of life, not only for my family, but for the families that I provide housing for, and it will be a real asset for our community. I've said this once, I've kind of said it too many times, but strong recreation brings families to our town. Families bring developments bring business. It's just how the process works for rural communities like us. And I will do everything I can at the county level to advocate for this project and for any type of funds that, that I hope that eventually could come our way. Currently, we have a $150,000 grant through the Community Block Grant Program that we have towards this project. That is a step in the right direction. It's not going to be enough, and I will do my part to help where I can. So thank you for your time tonight, and I look forward to conversations about this in April, and I'll be voting yes in May. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Much appreciated. And once again, thank you for your input, not only as a board member, but as a legislator the last couple months on this project. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk? Anything else?
Would the town board members be willing to speak with their initial thoughts of this?
I think we do have some things we'd like to speak about. We did jot some notes down, and some of us do have some things to say, so why don't we start with Councilwoman Jackson?
Thank you very much. If everybody doesn't know, I work at the high school, so I'm involved with the school and the students, and they're very much behind this. This would allow the extremely popular basketball program to have a space that they could go to, which wouldn't have to work around the school schedule. Also, pop-up events like senior and teen events and after-school programs. So the students are very enthusiastic about this and hoping that the town will be able to work with them.
Thank you. Councilman Maluda.
Well, it's published. The National Recreation and Parks Association research out there shows in any community that recreational families they're active and they're healthy and there's a huge problem with obesity in America, in this country, and you got to get out and play. So this would be a perfect opportunity to get out and play all year long.
Thank you. Councilman Holmes.
I like the idea of the rec department, Julie's kids having a place in the summer to be cool. And then going on from that, if there is an emergency in the community, that people have a place to go. God forbid a tornado or a hurricane, something of that magnitude. At least we'd have a core place for people to get some help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Deputy Supervisor Murphy.
So, obviously, recreation is obviously a key resource and benefit in any town. So, by having a recreation center, we would have opportunities to expand, and I know Julie and a couple of us have already said it, but we do expand the usage of those seasonal sports. And I also agree 100% with Julie again, where we bring other opportunities, farmers markets, Zumba classes, senior classes, senior events, et cetera, et cetera. So those are all positive benefits to having a recreation center. Another recreation benefit that we have here is when we have recreation, it does a couple of things for the community. Gets families together, friends together, obviously brings the community together. And finally, it does one other big thing for me. It keeps the kids engaged. When we have the kids engaged, they're less prone to those little things that draw them away, which don't make them a value to the community. Having the kids engaged gets them involved in the community, and having a community is better with the kids involved. And that's what I got. And I, too, will be voting in May, yes. So,
Thank you, Jay.
Yep.
To add to all of that, it's a place that is going to improve where our children go, our grandchildren go. And we did these studies and we did these surveys because we wanted you to tell us what you wanted. And as it was stated earlier, over 70% of you chose a recreational facility, a sports complex type facility, all right? And we heard that. So it'll add to community activities. Julie can build upon her programs already. Hopefully we can build upon and bring newer programs to our town. We won't be held at bay anymore by the schools. And I thank them for everything they do for us. Their facilities are phenomenal for us. We have a phenomenal basketball program. I'm a former coach. It was some of the best times I've ever had, especially when you get to coach your own kids, Andrew, right? So it'll bring not only our community together, it'll improve the programs that we have, it will add to the programs that that we already have and we'd like to bring here. Multi-use. And again, it'll come to you, the people that bring this to us. We want you to give your answer. We've explained where the numbers will go, and I am willing to take that on. This board, as well as former members, House, Rennie Abrams from before, I think we've proven that we can take the step in bringing on projects such as this. Okay? It was talked about earlier. We've built a garage. Andrew and the board and the committee members have finished the JHK Memorial Park. Julie and her staff, as well as the board members and committees, has made improvements at the Boyce Park already. We have a major project coming in the month of June, I believe we're going to do, and we're going to dress up and dredge and fix the drainage and make the pond even better down there. We're putting the work and putting your tax money out for you. We're spending your money on you, and this is what we'd like to choose. So on May 11th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., you have the choice. You choose for what you wanted. And I'll be supporting this project. And with that, I'd like everybody to turn out. I hope the turnout is good. I hope it is a success. And then with that, I'd like to thank every committee member that we have, our rec director, our former board members. This all started years ago, like Katie said. Started under my predecessor, Julie's predecessor, and years before that. And it's finally come to this. And this is the choice that as residents of Dover will make. And I think it'll be a good choice. And I think it'll turn out to be a good choice. So with that, I've talked long enough. Support it on May 11th, and let's see where it goes. And Katie, especially, thank you for putting this presentation together tonight. Or a committee member as well, but putting this so everybody can see it. And thank you for making sure we get it onto our website so everybody can take a look who is not watching or who was not here tonight. So with that, I thank you.
Rich, could I just add one more thing?
Yep.
Also with, we're talking about kids, a place for our kids. We also have a wonderful senior community. And for them to have an expansive place where they can do their things and their, get together and, let's extend the life of our seniors, their longevity in a beautiful place where they can gather. So, and then practice, practice makes perfect. We got a year-round facility. I will be voting for this as well. I know what it is to coach my own kids with Little League, so I think this is, as Rich said, let's everybody get out and vote on the 11th. Thank you.
All right, anything else? Anybody else from the crowd? With that, we'll end this presentation, and I'll open it up, public comments. If you have any, please approach the podium.
Not in the rec center, but just a quick plug. On Saturday, this Saturday, the 16th, is the St. Patrick's Day 5K. This will be our third year doing this at the James Ketchum Memorial Park. Kind of joint collaboration between the Eastern Dutchess Road Runners, the Dover Lions Club, of course, the town board, and it's always been the rec department have always been kind of behind us with this as well. I think that we're floating somewhere in the high 80s for runners and participants at this time. I ordered 100 medals. I'll get another 12. So if you are free Saturday morning, it's a great event. The Lions Club will be serving up Shamrock shakes. We've got fruit bowls,
Shakes. Shakes.
It's a good morning for our community. So registration is 8. The race starts at the run starts at 9, and then please join us back at the community center after. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Seeing nobody else approaching the podium to make a comment, our upcoming meetings. Next meeting will be Wednesday, March 27th. That will be a regular town board meeting. We'll be back at 6:30 p.m. for start time. And then we will set a date for the next meeting/presentation on this project, correct? Okay. With that, seeing nobody else has anything, Tommy, do you need to talk to us about anything in executive session?
No, not
We
tonight.
can pass? Perfect. Seeing that we don't need an executive session, I'll move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by myself, seconded by Councilman Maluta to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night,
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.